So while most people have been waiting for the U.S. to finally buy more Bitcoin, Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, might have accidentally revealed the U.S.'s secret plan to a well-known public Bitcoin miner. Before we get into this private conversation that they had, Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin senator, also had some interesting things to say about the future of Bitcoin in America. Let's dive into this supposed leaked conversation with Scott Bessent. Before we jump into that, we got a special guest joining us on the show, Alex SVETSKI. But before we get to that, let me pull up the first post, my friend, and let's start going through this source material. And SVETSKI is joining us. Oh, sorry about the, there we go. So let's get into the source material. This is a stunning admission from ECB President Christine Lagarde.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Which one is it?
You have the wrong one on that one.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You sent me that one. You sent me that one. Anyways, we just finished a small dinner with Secretary Bessent and Chairman Scott. We talked about the market structure bill. We talked about the economy, and we talked about the 11 finalists for the chair of the Fed, and we talked about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. The U.S. holds about $17 billion of Bitcoin and will not sell and plan to continue to accumulate. Those things were cool. What's cooler? Being at the table, being in the room, talking about land, power sovereign AI, talking about Bitcoin, the actual Secretary of Treasury of the United States of America and the chairman of the banking committee care enough about when we do to sit down and talk about how they can help. We're so early, but we're about to arrive. No other crypto or AI folks were there. TikTok. I mean, that's crazy. And this is the CEO of Clean Spark, one of the largest Bitcoin mining companies on planet Earth. And you said it right there. He's telling the world, right? The U.S. Treasury Secretary is admitting that the United States holds $17 billion worth of Bitcoin, and they have absolutely no plans to sell. So, I mean, again, this isn't just some random anon posting this information. There's a CEO of, I believe CleanSpark is a publicly traded company, right? So I think it holds weight. We were talking about Senator Lummis earlier on this week.
Let's chat about this. Because there's a few things in this is like this last part here is something you say all the time. It doesn't really matter if you're a Bitcoiner if you're not in the room. Like that's a Nico special.
Yeah. So what I've been saying is, like, when it comes to politics and all that stuff, like, you guys have to understand, we're in this like weird transitionary period in human history where we're transitioning from the fiat era, where, you know, politics holds a tremendous amount of weight. I think it gets, I don't even want to go there, but let's just say it holds a tremendous amount of weight because it's a popularity contest for control of the money printer. That's really how I see modern day politics. And you see all the dysfunction that comes with it. What I believe Bitcoin's going to bring into the future is this era where politics is not going to hold so much importance, because I think more and more people are going to start voting with their feet and also their wallet, and they're going to go to jurisdictions where they're treated best. But I think that transitionary period is going to take a very long time. And I think SVETSKI, this is your words, the SVETSKI's words, the people that I can't say it. I have to be nice. I want to say it, but I can't say it. I have to be nice. The people that most benefit from the old system, the previous system, they might feel a certain way about the new system. And we gave you guys 2 examples of that on last week's show, where we played you guys a clip of Joy Reid, I believe her name was. And she was literally saying, it was so crazy, like things that you would find normal. I'll quote this to you guys because I want to get SVETSKI's thoughts. I mean, I'm scared to get SVETSKI's thoughts on this, actually. But basically, Joy Reid, which is a very popular talk show host here in the United States, she said they want to take us back to no income tax, no regulations, earn what you want, family inherits everything, right? So, I mean, you hear that on the surface and you're like, earn what you want. I mean, isn't that the whole point of capitalism and meritocracy? Like family inherits everything. Like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound too crazy. But again, they're saying that these types of positions are extremist. And then there was a part where a CNBC anchor was talking about Balaji's theory about the network state versus the nation state. So even people that perhaps don't believe in the ideas of Bitcoin and the political implications of what the world would look like under a Bitcoin standard are starting to see people become sovereign individuals and choose to opt out. And it's crazy because they have such a problem with that. But anyways, going back to traditional politics, weaving it back in, what I've been making the case for with this last election is that it was incredibly important in the United States. And a lot of Bitcoiners give me a lot of flack for that because they say big politics don't matter, right? This is what Bitcoin is all about. I was making the case that, yes, you're absolutely right in theory, but during this transitionary period, politics absolutely do matter. We got Ross Ulbricht freed. We ended Operation Choke Point 2.0. If you're a Bitcoin entrepreneur in the United States, right, now you have a little bit more breathing room. Bitcoin has breathing room in order for it to thrive and do its thing. And what I was telling Opti, going back to what he was referencing, is in Washington, D.C., if you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. And Bitcoiners were not in the room the last administration and the administration after that. Because the previous administration attacked Bitcoiners the way they did with Operation Choke Point 2.0, with arresting CZ, with arresting Arthur Hayes, with arresting the Samurai Wallet developers, with arresting the Tornado Cash developers, it galvanized the industry and essentially it forced us to throw our political hat in the ring, right? And you saw that with different Bitcoiners. I'm not going to name a lot of them, but basically different Bitcoiners started to become part of the donor class in DC. And the donor class in DC is the ones who actually make decisions, right? So this is what Opti was talking about. And the fact that, again, you have the CEO of a publicly traded Bitcoin miner having a private audience with the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and the U.S. Treasury Secretary telling him, yes, we're holding $17 billion of the Bitcoin and we have no plan to sell it and we plan to stack more, is a big effing deal. Last year, me and Opti were seriously considering leaving the country because of the regulatory hostility. We saw the writing on the wall. Like, it was very obvious they did not like our industry. And then you had this recent election. Now, does that mean that things can't go back to where they were before? No, that doesn't mean that at all. But the case I'm trying to make is we all want to live in the world of the sovereign individual. I make the case that it's not here yet. We're in this bumpy transition era. But at the same time, I think our side is winning. Like our side, the side of freedom, sovereignty, peace, prosperity. I think it's winning. I think it will continue to win as more and more countries see Bitcoin's incentives and they want to be a part of it. Anyway, SVETSKI, before we move on, bro, guys, if you don't know SVETSKI is one of the best effing writers in the space. He's a hell of an entrepreneur. He's founded companies that you guys are familiar with. He's wrote books that you guys are familiar with. I call him a good friend of mine. I'm happy to have him back on the show. SVETSKI, dude, you've written on all these topics extensively, man. One of your latest pieces and books, I actually have it in my bedroom. Sophie, I think, put it there. The Bushido of Bitcoin. So you talk a lot about a lot of these topics about look, this is going to be a radically different world. What is going to be where I'm currently at in my head, SVETSKI, is what is going to be the role of government in this new society that I think we're all heading into. SVETSKI, this floor is yours. Just reminder, bro, we are on YouTube. So
yeah. All good. Thank you for the kind words, bro. It's been a while since I've been back. There's a quote that I like from Pericles. It says, just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. And, for a long time, I was a raging Bitcoiner, raging libertarian, raging anti-statist and all this sort of stuff. But I think I've kind of matured a little bit. And my position these days is that there's no such thing as a world without politics. We have a world today of too much politics, because you have people think voting and the franchise is a right, which traditionally throughout history, it never was a right. It was something that was reserved for the few, and the few were those who were in charge of politics. So it was kind of like managed, or it was kind of isolated to the elites, who were the ones who were most adept at dealing with that part of the world, or that part of existence. Today, what we have is, and there was a really, really good tweet, if Opti, you want to find this, from Devin Erickson, which I retweeted today. I'm off Twitter largely, and I'm not doing any of my own posting anymore. But I did just retweet Devin Erickson's post today, which was spot on around the position on if we had a society in which fewer people and the basically the true natural elite were the ones who were quote unquote voting and doing the political process, the world would look very, very different, because you wouldn't have all the idiots and the stupid people basically having the same say as the people who understand what's going on. So anyway, I will let people read that tweet if they want to sort of go down that rabbit hole and understand the nature of this thing. But my point here is that just the nature of politics just means like affairs of a state or affairs of a group of people. Now, libertarians will sit there and say, oh yeah, you know, well, once Bitcoin wins and, you know, we'll remove the state and the state won't exist and all this sort of stuff. And then when you kind of like push the conversation to kind of its end state, no pun intended, what sort of ends up coming out is this idea of, well, look, you know, there won't be a nation state or or a public state in the way it's exists today, but you know, things will be run by these large scale corporations, and behind everything is kind of like insurance companies and everything like that. So they kind of make an economic justification for everything. But what they're making a justification for is a organization or a coordination amongst human beings along purely economic lines. That is still a state. I'm sorry to say, you know, like it's still it's a different form of state. It's a more economically oriented form of state. But I would argue that maybe that's even not a good idea. Maybe that sort of version of a future where everything is sort of like economically rational is not great. Like maybe the nation state is actually superior to that, because there's some element of blood ties. There's some element of kin. There's some element of sort of
hegemony.
Yeah, exactly. There's some relationship between people more than just the economic relationship that you have in, you know, something that, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Dubai. I love Dubai, but it feels very plastic. It feels very artificial, right? There's nothing. It's very different than going to somewhere like Japan, where the relationships and the state is organized around ethnicity. It's a very different feeling. So I'm definitely no longer a libertarian in the sense that you know, I don't agree with sort of economics as the primary thing. I don't agree with this idea that the state is going to dissolve and disappear forever, because all we're going to do is just replace it with a different state. I do agree, though, that Bitcoin will make the economic dimension of the operation of a state more honest. And that is good, irrespective of what flavor the state takes, whether it's an economic one, whether it's an ethnic one, whether it's a national one, whether it's a religious one, whatever, right? That doesn't matter. If the economic dimension is more difficult to cheat with and to take advantage of, the state will naturally be more honest. And ideally, you will get more of a natural elite that runs the state. But this idea that we're going to move beyond the concept of a state, we're going to move beyond the concept of politics, as like kids, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, the average 25-year-old leftist atheist, you know, that's kind of like, you know, you have to go through that stage. You know, you grow up religious, you become a raging atheist because you're stupid, and then, you know, you reach your sort of 30s and you grow up and you like realize that there's something larger than all of us. That's kind of libertarianism. Like you go through the process, you realize that, oh, you know, this is evil, that's evil, blah, blah, blah. You become a libertarian, and then at some point you grow up and you realize that no, it's not that simple, it's not that clean. That's not how the world works. The world is much messier than that. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really like deep, you know, deep take, and I think there's a lot to unpack there. And the way that I would say it is basically, you know, okay, so essentially the way that it's set up right today is someone who has a lot at stake in society, meaning someone who has built a business, someone who is employing a lot of people. Their vote is equal to someone that perhaps hasn't contributed as much to society, right? And I think that incentive structure essentially creates a system where eventually the majority of people are going to vote to redistribute wealth, right? I think that's essentially what happens,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's one part of it. The second part of it is the actual understanding of the ramifications of political decisions, man. This shit is complex. It's complex as
course.
hell. Like the average person has no fucking idea what's going on and the machinations and the ramifications of their ideas, like the consequences of messing around with any sort of complex system. You know, like the average person can't manage their own household and they're gonna have a say on how global, you know, macro things should be managed. It's like the dumbest thing possible. Like, you know, the fact that like we have this idea that everyone has a right to vote, it's so stupid. It's absolutely the dumbest thing that's ever happened to civilization. Sorry, I'm getting worked up. I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah,
Back to you.
it's definitely I would say it's definitely, you know, it's definitely again, I'm looking at it from like kind of like a stakeholder perspective, right? Which is if you contribute more to society, right? You know, you work harder, you get, you know, you bust your ass, you contribute more to your local community. It that reflects in business, that reflects in how much income you're able to make. But in terms of your political power over society, it when it comes to your actual vote, it's actually equal to someone that perhaps didn't contribute as much, right? And I think, as SVETSKI was saying, that perhaps misaligns incentives. Yeah. So, anyways, that's a rabbit hole. I want to get back to some of the things we were talking about earlier, but this is what happens when we have SVETSKI on the show. We go through these fascinating rabbit holes. One of the things I want to cover is this this article that dropped by The Rage. And it says the U.S. Treasury won't tell us how much Bitcoin it owns. The Freedom of Information Act does not require agencies to answer to phishing expeditions, IRS tells The Rage. Earlier this year, we filed a request with the Department of the Treasury under the Freedom of Information Act to disclose the amount of Bitcoin held by the U.S. Treasury, distinguished by Bitcoin seized and Bitcoin forfeited. The request was made in light of our previous reporting that revealed that the U.S. Marshal Service, the agency which manages the U.S. government's forfeiture program, holds less than 30,000 Bitcoin, far off from the 200,000 Bitcoin advertised to be owned by the U.S. government, as alleged by President Trump. Our reporting on the U.S. Marshal Service's Bitcoin holdings caused both confusion and outrage that went so far as garnering responses from Senator Lummis of Wyoming, who speculated that the government may have secretly sold its Bitcoin stash. The background for said confusion was set by sites which attempted to track the U.S. government's Bitcoin holdings, but do not differentiate between Bitcoin that has been seized, meaning Bitcoin that may have to be given back to victims of criminal activity, the inclusion of Bitfinex funds on the U.S. government's addresses displayed on the intelligence platform Arkham, and Bitcoin that has been forfeited, meaning Bitcoin that is actually the government's property. So anyways, this is something we covered when the news broke. But again, I find it interesting, again, that the CEO of CleanSpark is saying, look, you know, it's a trust me, bro type of situation for sure. All right. I don't want to take away from that. But, you know, he is saying, look, the Treasury Secretary looked at me in the face and he said, we hold $17 billion of Bitcoin and we intend not to sell. Right. Which I find very, very interesting. Anyways, Opti, you did send me this.
No. I sent you a different tweet, bro.
Which one?
It's Senator Lummis.
Okay, so let me pull up the Senator Lummis one then.
Here, I'll resend it to you.
You boys are on a roll today.
I know, right? Nika's blaming me for his inadequacies.
It's a Thursday. It's Thursday.
Look, Nika's not allowed to vote anymore.
Yeah, my vote's been taken away. I cannot vote anymore.
You can't even pull up a tweet.
I can't even vote anymore. Okay, so the next one that we want to talk about is the Jack Dorsey. They just rolled out Bitcoin payments for businesses at proof of sales, which is fantastic. In my opinion, it's been extremely complicated as a business to receive Bitcoin payments. And especially if you're just running a mom and pop shop, like a taco stand or whatever, you know, you're going to go through the technical hurdles of being able to receive Bitcoin. Well, Square made that incredibly easy, but it still doesn't solve one of the fundamental problems, which is Bitcoin is not treated as money. It's treated as property. Therefore, every time you use Bitcoin to transact, if you want to do it legally, you have to report the capital gain or the capital loss at the end of the year, when you're filing your taxes. So Jack Dorsey goes on X and he says, we need a de minimis tax exemption for everyday Bitcoin transactions. Senator Lummis responds with, working on it. If this is of interest to you, please tell your senators/House member. I know that this was tried. It was attempted to be included in one of the recent bills. I think it was like the Clarity Act or something like that. No, it was actually the Big Beautiful Bill. Actually, Donald Trump's bill that he passed early on this year, the no tax on tips one. They actually tried to include this passage in it. Unfortunately, it was not included in the bill. But yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic if there was, a tax exemption for everyday Bitcoin transactions, because right now, the way that it works is it's ludicrous. And by the way, if you're using fiat in another country, let's say you're using the euro or the pound or the Swiss franc or whatever currency or fiat you want to use, you don't have to pay taxes on that, right? So like if you go to Brazil or if you go to Spain or if you go to France or whatever, and you swipe your debit card to pay for whatever thing you're buying, you don't have to pay taxes on that purchase, right? So this idea is very interesting. So anyways, that's the intro segment of today. We're also crashing, which is interesting.
It's over, bros.
$120,000 after the 126 high.
It's all over.
It's over. We had a good run.
Pack it up. But yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this, SVETSKI, because again, it's quite interesting. Going back to what you were saying earlier, right? Which is it's quite naive to think that, politics don't play a role in just, your life and your situation. And at the end of the day, if they do manage to, I don't think they have enough. I don't think they have the votes, but if they had the public support, this would make the lives of everyday Bitcoiners here in the US a whole lot easier. And I know most other countries, it's the same concept, right? If you use Bitcoin, if you spend Bitcoin, it's treated as property. It's not treated as money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's always been the biggest hurdle for. I mean, there's two hurdles for Bitcoin adoption for medium of exchange. One is the volatility of the price, and you can't do anything about that other than wait. And two is the tax treatment. So the tax treatment is a purely artificial construct. It's something that is applied, by the dumbasses in government. So, if that can be changed, thanks to a few, intelligent people, then rock and roll. Let's do that. Like this to me is like a no-brainer of an unblock, because then that'll make the process of accepting Bitcoin much easier. It's like I know many Bitcoiners, like when I was in Australia, like in my early days of Bitcoin, trying to get them to accept Bitcoin for payments and this and that, man, it was a fucking nightmare. And it wasn't out of lack of interest in having another payment mechanism. It was always boiled down to the price of Bitcoin, and more importantly, the tax treatment. Because even with the price of Bitcoin, it's not that bad, because it doesn't mean that someone's sales are 100% going to be in Bitcoin, right? Like they would be more than happy to take some sale here and there in Bitcoin, and then they would generally, after they understood what it was, they would just keep it. But because of the tax treatment, because of the bullshit, the consumer doesn't want to spend, because then they have to deal with the nightmare of doing that stuff, as does the owner of the business as soon as they need to convert it for paying for cost of goods. So anyway, that's like, I think that's a nothing burger, in the sense of like, I don't have an opinion out there that's, I don't know, interesting outside of let's do that for the States, and that this should be a thing that should be done everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think, and also too, I think if the States finally, if they move along with this, I think other countries, just the game theory starts to be baked in, and other countries follow suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is why a lot of Bitcoiners were hyped with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, because they're thinking, okay, look, like if this happens, other countries are going to start buying Bitcoin. We're going to be talking more about that during the news section, actually, because breaking news: first European country announces that they're putting let me be specific here and make sure I'm not butchering it. They're putting 1% of their sovereign wealth fund in Bitcoin. So that's kind of a big deal. So we're going to be talking about that during the news segment. Also, we have SVETSKI joining us on the show today. So we're going to be talking about Satlantis.io. You guys should definitely go check it out. I already signed up on the app. I got my handle on Satlantis already. So you can't take my handle, but you can sign up and make your own handle. So we're going to be talking about Satlantis in a little bit. And yeah, guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, I think we peaked at 620 live viewers on YouTube. Rumble audience almost at 100. Nostr's coming in strong, loving streaming on Nostr via Primal. So shout out to everybody who's watching us on Nostr. And thank you for everyone who's sending us sats. Are we streaming on Nostr? Is this working? I think it is. Maybe it's not. Anyways, I'm still getting out the kinks, but I think we're live everywhere else. So if you guys are enjoying the show, like I said, make sure to smash that like button. It's going to be a great show today. We have tons to talk about. But before we get into that, I do want to give a very special shout out to our lead sponsor. Guys, go check out bitcoinwell.com/simply today. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence. The fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada or the USA. To get signed up, you put in your email address, bada bing, bada boom. Takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up, and you're ready to buy Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a non-custodial exchange. That means that they don't even give you the ability to leave your Bitcoin on the platform. As soon as you buy it and the funds clear, go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a high net worth individual, a family office, a trust, or an organization, and you want a white glove service designed to help you buy Bitcoin directly to self-custody, you have to check out the Bitcoin Well Infinite product today. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. Tell them Simply Bitcoin send you, and they'll take very good care of you. All right, everybody, let's start the show. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a second. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $119,960. Block height, 918,330. Sats per dollar, 834 sats per dollar. Market cap, 2.39 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.49%. Decline from all-time high, negative 4.9%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, I have a clip from Larry Lepard. Larry Lepard's been going hard in the paint. It says, Lawrence Lepard says, Jerome Powell has lost control, and when markets realize it, $450 trillion will flood into assets that can't be printed. Bitcoin is massively underpriced. So let's check out the clip, and then we will all talk about it.
Powell is bluffing. He says we're going to get inflation back to 2%. He says we haven't lost control, even though he has. And the market believes him because the forward swaps are at 275 for 5-year inflation. It's bullshit, but people believe him. When things start to break, he will have to change his tune well before the inflation rate is 2%. And everyone's going to go, that's interesting. He really has lost control. He cannot get inflation down. All those guys who've been talking about inflation is inevitable, they are right. And then you're going to see just an enormous movement of capital from other things into our things. There's $450 trillion of fiat shit in the world. Cash, stocks, and bonds. All of Bitcoin, what is it today? 350 billion, 400 billion. So we're 450 trillion, 400 billion of Bitcoin. Let's call it 6 or 7 trillion of sound money. Bitcoin, gold stocks. Okay. 450 trill of unsound money, bonds, cash, and stocks. When a quorum of the people come to the conclusion that they can never stop printing and that it is inevitable that they will have to continue to print, they are going to say, please protect my assets in stuff that cannot be printed. All it takes, it doesn't take the whole 450 coming into Bitcoin or gold for us to go way up in price. Even if only 10% of it comes in, that's $45 trillion chasing 7. How much does the value of our stuff have to go up? It's true that in 1980, when gold was very hot and very, everyone thought inflation would go on forever, right at the peak of that market before Volcker tamed it. Okay, in 1980, gold represented 20% of all financial assets, at that time. I mean, gold and Bitcoin today represent less than 1% of all financial assets. So there's plenty of upside here in the sound money stuff, if one assumes that they can never stop printing. And I believe that, with every bone in my body, I believe that. I think other people are coming to believe that, but for our stuff to work, we need more people to believe that. And, human beings do tend to, want to protect themselves. And so, as the word spreads and as the inflation continues to get bad or worse, more and more people are becoming aware, right? I mean, more and more people are being orange pilled, more and more people are aware of inflation, more and more people are interested in gold. I mean, everyone kind of gets it. I mean, this thing is broken. I mean, California, let's send out checks to help with inflation. Oh, that's a good idea. Spain just announced they're doing that. I mean, these guys can't stop. We're in the right place, but sadly, it's not going as fast as I would like, because we all have limited time on this planet. It's like, let's rip this Band-Aid off. Let's get this over with. Let's just solve it.
All right, everybody. Larry Lepard dropping the wisdom, dropping the sauce as always. I want to get SVETSKI. What's your reactions, bro?
No reaction. I guess I agree. I mean, I have no idea about any of Jerome Powell or what they're doing, or couldn't give two shits anymore, bro.
True Bitcoiner. True Bitcoiner.
Like, not even that. It's just like, I fucking don't care, bro. Like, I just don't give a shit.
Oh man.
I love Larry, but like, man, I just am so far like removed from anything that's going on in like the markets or any of that sort of stuff. Like 17 billion, 3 billion. Like, I don't even know what any of those numbers mean. I don't even know what it like has literally zero interest to me.
I mean, that is the most Bitcoin answer.
Bitcoin's end.
I think
confirmed.
that SVETSKI has reached Bitcoin's end. It's confirmed. So Opti, what do you think about Larry Lepard? Are you on SVETSKI's level? Because I kind of agree.
mean, SVETSKI is my spirit animal. 100% spirit animal. If it wasn't for the show, I would be 100% on board with exactly what SVETSKI is saying. That's literally how I came to Bitcoin. This whole idea of like, I just don't care anymore. I'm just trying to save in something that won't get destroyed. Recently, you guys know I have been dabbling in the macro stuff, because I think the gold market is telling us a lot of interesting stuff that's going on. And like I've been saying, what we're starting to see recently is this whole new meme coming out of Wall Street. This whole debasement trade is the hottest trend going on right now. And I actually saw Larry Lepard. I don't have his tweet up right now, but he did a tweet the other day. He's like, I literally wrote a whole book about the debasement trade. At least they're finally waking up to what's going on. And I think that's just where we are right now. And like Larry said, I'm what, maybe half of Larry's age here, but I think we are all, spirit animals or rather SVETSKI's our spirit animal. We're all just like, guys, it's like so obvious you guys don't see this. It's taken you guys 15 years to wake up to this. At least it took you a year or two to wake up to what's going on ever since the ETF was launched, ever since it's been kind of palatable for people to embrace Bitcoin. But it still feels like it's going way slower than any of us could have imagined. But at least it's happening in real time. And it does feel like the classic trope of just watching a slow motion train crash happen. But it is happening, and you're starting to see that more people are waking up to this idea. Of course, they coined it the debasement trade. In reality, everyone knows what's going on. They're just destroying fiat currencies and essentially inflating their asset prices because the people that are in control hold assets, and no one holds dollars. And if you know what's going on, you don't hold dollars. But this is happening in real time. It's happening probably a lot slower than we thought it would. But yeah, I totally agree. What do you say? You know, there's $450 trillion of trash out there that people are holding, and now they got to find a new home for that. And as we're seeing with gold hit all-time high, people are waking up to this idea that they need hard money. And so obviously Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are just waiting for that moment to happen. Until we start to see a tsunami of capital start to enter Bitcoin, then most people are still going to be asleep at the wheel. And I've been telling you guys, you know, like personal anecdotes of this happening. Again, repeating myself from yesterday, but had a combo with my mom, and she basically was saying the same thing. So many people are going to be sitting there on the sidelines and being like, oh, I wish I had bought Bitcoin. And I've been going further and saying, yeah, everyone's going to be saying that. And then they're going to get mad at us Bitcoiners for not telling them. And it's like, guys, we've been doing this for 15 years at this point. You know, Nico and I have been doing this for 5 years on the internet trying to do it. And, you know, we might be one of the most successful ones doing it. And yet still people don't care. It seems like a lot of people are asleep at the wheel. And it's really going to take a lot of pain for people to finally wake up to what's happening. And it's super unfortunate, but hey, we have Bitcoin. We're chilling here. I was actually talking to Sal this morning, Nico, my trainer, SVETSKI, and we were all just talking. Me and him were going back and forth, and we're like, man, it's just crazy how people are just oblivious of what's going on when it's so obvious to us that at this point where it's like, this is elementary, guys. Like, when are you going to wake up to what's going on? It seems like it's going to take a lot longer than we probably even imagine. I think it'll be in our lifetimes. Maybe, you know, I'm not going to say that. That's kind of mean. But it's going to happen in our lifetimes, guys. So just stack sats and chill.
Absolutely. Stack sats. Everybody want. Go ahead, SVETSKI.
I was going to say the same people that Opti just described are voting. So really need to know about the world.
Everybody wants to reach SVETSKI Zen, Bitcoin Zen. I think everybody wants to reach that point in your Bitcoin journey, in your Bitcoin career. It's extremely peaceful. It's very quiet. It's very Zen. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We still have a lot to cover. Breaking news, a European country has started buying Bitcoin. I already know SVETSKI's answer to this. And then we're going to be talking about Satlantis during the culture segment. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, go to bitkey.world today. Again, this is one of the easiest hardware wallets to use, incredibly intuitive. Use promo code SIMPLY, get 20% off anything on their website. Bitkey.world. Again, bitkey.world. Anyways, the breaking news for today is Luxembourg joins the Bitcoin arms race, nation's wealth fund to buy Bitcoin for the first time. Luxembourg is officially joining the ranks of governments investing in Bitcoin. The country's intergenerational sovereign wealth fund will allocate 1% of its portfolio, over 7 million euros, to Bitcoin and other crypto. Finance Minister Gilles Roth announced Wednesday during his 2026 budget presentation in the Chamber of Deputies. Quote, "This is really great news for crypto assets because this is the first investment of a public fund in Bitcoin in Luxembourg. The move positions Luxembourg as the first Eurozone nation to allocate sovereign wealth into Bitcoin ETFs, making a significant symbolic step for Europe's financial landscape." It goes on to say, Bitcoin as a strategic financial allocation. As of June 30th, 2025, the FSIL held $887 million in assets, primarily in investment-grade bonds, index funds with less than 1% in cash. The planned allocation, if implemented at current levels, would translate to roughly $9.5 million in Bitcoin exposure through ETFs. Luxembourg's Director of Treasury confirmed the details in a Wednesday post, explaining that the decision follows the government's July 2025 approval of a revised investment policy allowing up to 15% of FSIL assets to be placed in, quote, alternative investments, including private equity, real estate, and cryptocurrencies. He acknowledged debate surrounding the move. Quote, "Some might argue that we're committing too little too late. Others will point out the volatility and speculative nature of the investment. Yet, given the FSIL's particular profile and mission, the fund's management board concluded that a 1% allocation strikes the right balance, while sending a clear message about Bitcoin's long-term potential." Kiefer clarified that the exposure would not involve direct Bitcoin holdings. To avoid operational risks, the exposure to Bitcoin has been taken through a selection of ETFs. Luxembourg as a Bitcoin hub. The decisions also aligns with Luxembourg's broader strategy to cement its status as a fintech and digital assets hub within the European Union. The country has increasingly become a base for crypto firms applying for MiCA licenses, which allow companies to operate across the EU under unified regulatory standards. By integrating Bitcoin ETFs into a state investment fund, Luxembourg is signaling that digital assets are entering the financial mainstream, not as speculative gambles, but as long-term strategic holdings. Kind of connecting the next piece of news with this, next-gen Gulf heirs push family wealth into crypto and hedge funds. The Canoe twins led one of the region's earliest family office Bitcoin bets in 2020. Next-gen heirs in the Gulf are steering centuries-old fortunes towards crypto and hedge funds, signaling a break from the traditional focus on real estate and local businesses. It goes on to say, leading the charge are, I can't pronounce those names, I'm sorry, a very wealthy family from Bahrain who pushed their family office back to Bitcoin in 2020, according to a Tuesday report by Bloomberg. Their proposal, initially met with skepticism by the family's investment head, James Burke, was eventually approved by Canoe's group committee. committee despite resistance from older members. A small Bitcoin allocation was made and later sold at a profit. Since then, the family office has continued investing in digital assets, now opting for hedge fund structures to manage risk and exposure. So as you can see, Bitcoin adoption on a nation state level, on a ultra high net worth individual level, is spreading worldwide. It's catching like wildfire everywhere, all across the world. And this is really, really cool that this is happening. But as Bitcoin, as SVETSKI said, I don't care. I'm in Bitcoin's end, right? So I'm already anticipating what SVETSKI is going to say. I'm going to pass it on to Opti.
Well, look, first thoughts are 1%, $7 million. Like these are rookie numbers. We gotta, pump these numbers up here. Though I do like the name of this fund, sovereign wealth fund, was generational wealth. This I don't know what the rest of it was, but hey, the memes are playing out in our favor. And someone in the Rumble chat was like, okay, cool, like the smallest country in Europe embraced Bitcoin. Yeah, they're also like the richest per capita. So it really reminded me of like Bhutan, the Kingdom of Bhutan, where it's what was their stuff? It's like a country that is based on like peace and prosperity is embracing Bitcoin. And now we got one of I think they're considered like the wealthiest country in Europe. I know not by like how much money they have, but again, by per capita. So it does look like not only people that want a little more peace in their life, but those that have some wealth are looking at Bitcoin as a way to maintain their wealth. So you kind of love to see this. And then the news of the Middle East brothers embracing Bitcoin. This is kind of the trend we've been seeing all throughout the year, is that people with a lot of wealth are looking into Bitcoin. The Middle East has been one of the hot spots throughout this year of capital flowing into Bitcoin. Now, the whole, just they want exposure to Bitcoin through the ETFs. Like, it's not how I would like to see this happen. But again, like, what is my opinion really worth? I just talk a lot of shit on YouTube. But you are starting to see, and I think that last sentence was kind of the kicker here. You're starting to see that Bitcoin is being accepted mainstream. It's no longer being looked at as a speculation. And I think that is kind of the trend of what we've seen all year. It's no longer just considered a speculative asset. Yes, there is speculation involved in where Bitcoin's going to go, but now it's starting to become kind of the cornerstone of a lot of people's portfolios. So, hey, it's starting at 1%. I'm sure they're going to ramp this up. I'm sure everyone does something similar. You kind of dip your toes in 1%, 2% into Bitcoin, and then they will eventually get this up to like 20+%. They should go all in. If they really want to save some generational wealth, it should be 100% of this going in. And they have like 887 million. So that'd be a nice little buy for Luxembourg. But, I guess baby steps is good.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we're gonna hit the culture segment.
SVETSKI's like, I don't care.
No, I think it's a fucking good thing. We've been talking about this shit for years now, and it's like the fact that it's happening. It's like
it's actually happening.
We prophesied this shit. Everyone should be bowing down to us and be like, these guys saw the future. And it's like, yeah, that's right. That's why we get a vote and you don't.
Oh man. All right, everybody, we're gonna hit the culture segment. We have tons to talk about. We're gonna be right back in just a little bit. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, Alex. Or rather, it honestly it feels weird when I call you by your first name, SVETSKI. I know you've been saying, or I don't know if you said it on the show or after the show or before the show, sorry, about you being off social media, but a lot of the stuff you've been doing is revolving around social media. It's just not necessarily Twitter or YouTube. You've been going very hard on Nostr, and as this article is, as Nostr as possible. So what is this concept of, am I going to say this, ANAP? Like, it's like ANCAP, but without the C, ANAP? What are you trying to do here?
No, dude, actually, to push back even on that, like, I don't give a fuck about social media, whether on X or Nostr or anything like that. I don't think Nostr is any better either. Like, I'm sort of done with social media and the online world altogether. We've had some big changes with Satlantis in the last month and a half, 2 months, since we came back from Prague. Basically, I am no longer convinced, and this is going to sound bearish, but whatever. I'm no longer convinced Nostr stands a chance against like X or Rumble or Substack or any of that sort of stuff to win in the attention economy. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, they're all just too good. They're too good at hijacking the mental space in people's minds, particularly like now that the whole censorship resistant narrative has changed. Like, people, I mean, you guys are on Rumble. I could almost guarantee you get more people who are interested in censorship resistance through Rumble than through Nostr. I could be wrong, but you correct me if I'm wrong there. So that sort of mind space has been taken up. So my whole philosophy around all of this stuff has evolved, and as such, we're evolving our product big time. So we're actually going to kill the content feed part of the product. We're going to move away from being about getting people to post content on a new place, because honestly, that just increases the friction. Like, even for you guys, I could imagine as content creators, like, do you really want to post content on Twitter and then on Instagram, then on Substack, and then on Rumble, and then also on fucking Nostr?
No.
Like, really? Is that solving a problem for you?
It's the bane of my existence, like,
exactly.
100%.
Right? So to me, I've kind of just had this epiphany. I was like, well, fuck, what have we been doing? Like, and we sat there trying to build like a social network for sovereign individuals, but we went to a bunch of conferences and stuff and realized people don't give a fuck, man. Like, I really have to be honest here. So we are throwing away the social side of it, or at least throwing away the content side of it, content and feed, and we're going specifically, and you've got it on the screen now. The experience economy is like, there is this movement now of people who just want to sort of get offline and like live in the real world. And now that doesn't mean you get off and like become Ted Kaczynski, right? Like, and you're going to go live in a fucking, in the forest somewhere. No, what I'm talking about is, yeah, you might have some level of online stuff going on, and, a lot of people run online businesses and stuff. But, the real juice of life comes through events, comes through some sort of travel, comes through doing stuff. So in short, Satlantis is becoming an events app. Simple as that. Like, run and host events and get paid in Bitcoin. Like, so I don't know if you guys know Luma or Eventbrite or meetup.com, but basically, like, our whole pitch is simplifying now. And it's just, hey, we're going to build the best events app on the planet, where you can, as a host, spin up an event and get paid in sats. We'll introduce also Tether, and we'll add fiat as well, because we're an events app. We're not a Nostr app or a Bitcoin app or all of that bullshit. Like, and I have a whole theory around this, which is the next generation of Bitcoin companies, the next generation of, meaningful companies are not going to be Bitcoin companies on the surface. They're like, we're an events product and we're going to build the best goddamn events app on the planet. And it will just happen to have Bitcoin payments in there. It'll have Tether payments in there as well, USDT, and it'll have fiat payments for those who want to do that. But it'll have the best feature set for running events and growing a community around your events so that you as the host can monetize and grow that community and build better and better events. Simple as that. So, if you're familiar with like Luma I think is the gold standard in events apps these days, but they're Solana bros, right? So fuck them. We're going to build a Bitcoin native events app, and we're going to build the best one possible where you can host calendars, you can build community, you have a social layer in there. The discovery experience is really cool. So this is where the social element comes in, is that I can see, because me and Nico are connected, I can see that Nico's running an event, or that Nico and Opti are going to X event. And that's interesting to me, right? So that is social context coming into the app, but it's not about it's not about Nico and Opti posting content. I don't give a fuck about that. I know who you guys are, and I want to see if we're like, I'll give you one example. When you go to like Vegas or Miami for the big BTC media conference, and there's like 10,000 satellite events happening, how do you know which one to go to? Like, you're sitting there on WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal, like, hey, bro, which one are you going to? It's like a fucking mess. Imagine if you've got like a beautiful calendar page with all the satellite events, and you can see instantly, okay, my friends are going here or there or whatever. You RSVP, one click, send some sats, boom, you zap the fucking event and it's done, you go. That's it. So simple, clean, easy. We're going to build the best Bitcoin native events product on the planet. That's what we're doing.
One question here, because we were kind of trolling about posting to a bunch of different social media apps. But so how is this calendar going to like connect? So like I don't have to actually go and be like, okay, I'm going to all these events. Is this going to be like through Nostr? So like people know. So like if I just click it and I buy to go this one place, it's like, it's there and everyone can see this.
Well, the idea is that you are logged in with your Nostr account.
Okay.
Right. So your Nostr connection still works. So like I'm viewing Nostr completely differently now. I don't think Nostr can compete, at least not for the next 10 years, on content and feeds, right? But where Nostr has a massive edge is that it is an open social graph. So I can now build an events app where I can surface some social information, which is, hey, who of your connections are going somewhere? That to me is really interesting. It's not interesting for me to get content creators to come and post on Satlantis now all of a sudden, because then you as a content creator are like, fucking hell, now I have to post over here as well. Like, you don't want to do that. Whereas here, it's like you have an option. You can host an event on Eventbrite, by all means, as a host, no worries. But you'll pay 10%, you'll pay through the nose for the tickets that you sell to Eventbrite. So you don't like that. And then for your attendees on Eventbrite, they might RSVP to an event that you're hosting, buy a ticket, but they can't see who of their friends are going to that event because Eventbrite doesn't have a social graph underlying it. So we are going to outcompete Eventbrite, give the attendees a better experience and give the hosts a better experience. That's the name of the game here, is build better fucking tools and use Bitcoin and Nostr as tools that enhance the product. But don't get lost in building a fucking Nostr product or building a Bitcoin product. There's 4 Bitcoin products, maybe 3 real ones and 1 fake one. There is wallets, there is exchanges, there is miners, and now there's fucking treasury company Ponzi schemes, right? That's it. Name for me another Bitcoin company that exists that is outside of those categories. Does
propaganda?
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Media company. Okay. But you're not a Bitcoin company. You're a media company.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Talk about Bitcoin. Exactly, right? So all these other ones, so they're the only real Bitcoin companies. So in my opinion, with like the age of Bitcoin companies is sort of done. It's been, no one's launching a new exchange, all of that shit. It's done now. That's been had. I think the next generation of quote unquote business around the Bitcoin space is build a media company, build an events app, build a travel app, build a community app, like Orange Pill app, build whatever, and then make Bitcoin a part of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I actually was saying this, I I forget at some point this week, and it's obviously an old trope at this point, you know, like Bitcoin hasn't had the iPhone moment. But I was watching that Steve Jobs movie with Ashton Kutcher, and that's exactly like the thought I got here is like, no one really cares, you know, how to build a computer. You just want to use a computer so that you can do what you want to do. And then I watched the Air Jordan movie, and it was the same thing. It's like, no one really cares about a sneaker. It's about kind of the social status around the sneaker that makes it something. It's about the person that puts the shoe on that really makes like an impact. And I think I've been saying this on the show for a while, and everyone knows like I'm really bad at responding to like text messages and DMs, and it's like it's a running joke now. But it's because I'm like on the same tip as you, where when I get off work here, you know, at Simply Bitcoin, and I'm done doing what we need to do for work, I'm just basically tuned out of social media. And I've started to realize in the last couple of weeks now that I am down here in Miami, and I kind of have to like build, you know, a new kind of social life around my new life down here. I've just been so kind of grateful for all the relationships in my life, and it really I like it resonated with me where it's like community is the most important aspect of what we're doing. And being on social media, especially right now, it's a bunch of crazy stuff on social media, and it is like an engagement farming, and we partake in it because that's our business. We are a media company. But like the importance of the relationships in the last couple of weeks has really dawned on me, and I'm just like so grateful for all the people in my life that know me, that love me, that understand who I am. And you know, just getting on the phone every once in a while and talking to your friends is like, I forgot how much I'm still a human. I forgot how much that actually means to me. And so I think what you're doing, this whole community connection aspect, is just like, I think it's really underrated right now. And people are really kind of missing the point because we're just so caught up in social media that like, we're basically already robots, right? We're just like, feed the algorithms so that I can get some more clout. Versus like, hey, how about like connecting with people in person in the what do they call it, in the real world, or the meet space.
Yeah. I mean, we're simultaneously more connected than ever, but like more disconnected.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I invited you guys to the Discover Floripa event that we want to run down here. It's like, you know, it's cool you guys and us catching up on catching up with you guys, sorry, on this call. But dude, it's so much better in real life. And that's the whole revamp here for Satlantis. Like, you know, we tried to do too much, like with too little resources, and you know, we went really wide and we drank the Nostr Kool-Aid. You know, we're like, oh yeah, you know, we're gonna sort of like, you know, defeat all of these big incumbents and everything like that, because Nostr is going to take off and it's going to take over the world and all this sort of stuff. And then, you know, the effect of the Kool-Aid wore off, you know, the effect of the crack wore off, and so it's sort of
metaphorical crack.
Metaphorical crack.
Metaphorical crack.
And you know, I sort of like woke up and I was like, wait a minute, no, let's just build something really simple and different. And it's funny because I realized along the way, and I don't know if you guys have realized this, but there is no actual good dedicated events app that can kind of like compete properly with Eventbrite or Luma or something like that is Bitcoin native, like where you can spin up an event and get paid in Bitcoin. Like the fact that doesn't exist, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, people kind of fandangle these, like, you know, they build a website and then they kind of like ram Bitcoin, what is it, BTC Pay server in there or some shit like this. So it's kind of like all of this stuff like bolted together, but there's no like really smooth, hey, click, create event, description, image, co-hosts, tickets, Bitcoin price, submit, like, and that experience, and then be able to edit and stuff like that. Man, it doesn't exist. So we're gonna make that really smooth. Mobile app, web app. That's the, like, we have the first version already. Bitcoin payments will roll out in a couple of weeks. And then, yeah, my call to action for anyone listening is if you go to any Bitcoin meetups in the real world, if you are a host of any meetups, like, get off meetup.com, get off Eventbrite, get off Luma, stop supporting fucking shitcoiners, and come and host your event on Satlantis. Simple as that. Let's roll.
Guys, go to satlantis.io. I put it in the Rumble. Rumble's popping off right now, by the way. Speaking of Rumble, 300 live viewers on Rumble, almost 600 live viewers on YouTube. X always in the thousands.
Wait, Nico, before
I forgot, out of all days, I forgot to set up Primal today.
Freaking bum over here.
I forgot to set up Primal, but we're on Primal, and I love the Primal guys.
Yeah, literally we're actually making SVETSKI's point by having to set up everything on all these different accounts. It's it's rough. Anyway, so
let me say one thing. Sorry, let me say one thing. This is not to take away from, like, I love the guys at Primal as well. What they're doing is a fucking gargantuan task. Like, Primal is going up against Rumble and Twitch and X and all that sort of stuff. I'm here, I'm saying, look, I'm a fucking pussy. I can't do that. I'm gonna go. I can't do that. Like, I don't have the capacity and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, Godspeed and everything to Primal on that. They've built a fantastic app. And in my opinion, honestly, like, even in the Nostr space, there's one winner for content. Like, the idea that you're going to use Primal and Damus and Amethyst and fucking Iris and Satlantis and all this other shit just to see, like, the same content from the same people you follow. Right? So you've got one winner in the Nostr space, and that's Primal for content. And then we want to win the event space. And the fact that you can use your one identity to log into both, that is interesting. But we're completely different apps now. That's why I said we're killing the feed, and let's go. I'm going after a much smaller player, which is Eventbrite and Meetup.com. You know, that's probably combined there. That's like $1 billion worth of valuation. Primal is going for, like, as I said, Twitch, X, Substack. That's like tens of billions or hundreds of billions. Go hard. I'm going for a smaller player, but I will give event hosts the best fucking event experience and the ability to monetize in sats, because that's what you want at the end of the day. You want to earn some fucking sats. So let's go.
Hey, wait, Nico, before we wrap up, I do have one small question. SVETSKI, I've heard of the attention economy. Did you create experience economy, or is that like a new trend? Because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it came to me as I was kind of thinking about what we're doing with this product and what matters. It's like experiences, right? And like, I want to move away from the attention economy to the experience economy. So I don't know if someone else has said it or if I subconsciously stole it from someone, but it's kind of like our thing now. It's like, hey, experience economy. Let's build stuff where people have experiences in the real world. Retreats, meetups, conferences, micro events, all that sort of stuff. Let's get people together in the real world.
Much needed right now. I think the one of the things you said, it's a trope at this point, but you know, we're more interconnected than ever. But as the research comes out and I think if everyone's being honest with themselves, like we feel lonelier and more isolated than ever, even though we are on all these social medias. You know, you have your phone connected to everyone. You're on the computer, you're on the apps, and you're still like, man, I should feel more interconnected in the world. And it just seems crazier than ever. Like, and I think we can all acknowledge the last month or so has been crazier than ever. And we're inundated with all of this information on social media. And that's really been a lot of the Bitcoin trend recently. I've seen a lot of friends and OGs like, man, I just need to get off Twitter. Like, I love Twitter, but I just need to get off of this, because I feel it. I say it on the show all the time. Like, I will log off and Nico will like blow me up, and I'm just like, dude, my brain is just fried. I just cannot do any more social media right now. Like, I'm chilling. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on the couch rotting right now because my brain is just melting.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's a tough gig. Yeah, man. This aligns with my new life sort of like direction, everything. Like, when I was building Satlantis as a social network sort of app, you know, I had this sort of like, I need to be public. I need to be a public figure. I need to, you know, do all this sort of shit. And honestly, man, like, since the baby came and all this sort of stuff, I don't want to be public. Like, I'm happy to jump on a podcast or two here and there with like people I like. But honestly, I don't want to fucking go on podcasts anymore. I don't want to post on Twitter anymore. I don't want to be public anymore. I don't want to get on stage anymore. None of that shit. I'm done. Like, it's over. SVETSKI's going dark, and he's going to focus on building a cool product, taking care of his kids and his wife, and doing some stuff here locally where I live, and actually building community here, not on fucking line like a dork. So
well, I feel you. I tell Nico this all the time. I'm like, I don't want to travel. I just want to sit in front of the computer and the camera and do our work, and then like don't bother me later, Nico.
All right, everybody. If you guys enjoyed today's show, go to Satlantis.io. Again, Satlantis.io. Go check out SVETSKI's latest entrepreneurial endeavor. SVETSKI is an absolute genius in the space. He's been here for a long time. She's wrote many books. He's built many companies. And go check out Satlantis. Anything that SVETSKI touches is, it turns out good. So go check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Go to Satlantis.io. If you guys enjoyed today's show, smash that like button and consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. Again, Simply Bitcoin is going to be at Mining Disrupt later this year. I hope to see you guys in November at Mining Disrupt. It's one of the largest Bitcoin mining conferences in the world. It's in Dallas, Texas. They're bringing it to Dallas this first time. So get your tickets now by scanning the QR code. Anyways, guys, we love you all. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode of SB Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.